Hello, we continue to solve word problems about averages. This is Singapore Math, textbook 5B, and we're on page 88. Now, I would say the word problems are a little bit more challenging, require multi-step solution in this particular set, so let's get to it. First, you always have to read problems very carefully. I cannot underestimate the importance of careful reading. So problem number 15, then we'll do 16. Let's just do this. Let's separate them because I like it nice and clean. Okay, the average height of two boys is 1 meter 55 centimeters or 1.55 meters. The height of one of them is 1.62 meters. What is the height of another boy? So we have boy 1 and we have boy 2. We know that the height of one of these boys is 1.62. How do we find the second boy? Do we know the total height of two boys? Nope, we don't. Otherwise, we would use the total, right? Use the total and subtract 162 to find the second boy, his height. So, but can we find the total height from the given information? We know that the average height of two boys is 1.55. Again, we know, what had just happened? We know that two boys, on average, each of them is 1.55. In order to find the total, we would use the opposite operation. So step 1, 155 times 2, that's total height. Total height of two kids, right? Of two kids. Notice, here is one unit. One person is about 155. The second person is about 155, right? Two boys, 155 on average. We can find the total, and the total is 3.1 meters. So now that we know the total height, of course, it's so much easier. Now that the total equals 3.1, we can find, step 2, we can find the missing height. And in order to find the missing quantity, we use subtraction, and the second boy is 1.48 meters tall. 1.48 meters. Now, my friends, there is one more way to solve this, right? We know that boy 1 is 1.62. We know that he is a little bit above average, right? Taller than average, because the average was, here's the difference, right? Here is the difference between boy 2, right? And this is the average, right? An average of two boys, or I would say total because we have two. So we do know that the difference is 700, which means the second boy has to be 0.07 shorter than the first boy, and this is how we get the same answer. Let's try to solve these kinds of problems on our own. The average cost of 3 books is $4.50. Okay, so we know that book 1 plus book 2 plus book 3 divided into 3, right? That's how we figure out, that's how we calculate average. We add everything up, and we know this average is $4.50. The average cost of 2 books, let's go. Now, that's the average of 2 books. Doesn't matter which books. 2 books, book 1 plus book 2, and of course that's divisible by 2, right? Is $3.90. What an interesting problem, Singapore Math, I love it. Find the cost of the third book. Find the cost of the third book, okay? How do we go about it? My friends, just like in the previous lesson, it is very helpful to first find the total cost of 3 books. Can we find the total cost of 3 books? Here it is. This is the total. Do you remember from previous lesson? How do we find the total cost? If we know the average and we know the number, we use reverse operation. 450 times 3, right? We multiply, and we do know that the total cost of 3 books, this is book 1 plus book 2 plus book 3, is $13.50. Step 2. Similarly, we can find the total cost of 2 books, book 1 and book 2. We just have to multiply 390 times 2, right? And 390 times 2 is 780. Now we know that book 1 and book 2 add up to 780. Well, 3 books add up to 1350, 2 books add up to 780. Can we find the missing third book? Of course we can. And the missing third book is we just subtract this quantity and this to find. This is 2 books. In part 2 we did 3 books. So we subtract the 2 and the missing price is $5.70. So book 3 right here is $5.70. $5.70. I hope this makes sense. We will solve another problem similar to this. An average of 145 people visited a 4-day exhibition in the first 3 days. So, 145 people visited in 3 days. Another 205 people visited the exhibition on the 4th day. What is the average number of visitors per day? This problem is asking us to find the average on 4 days. Multi-step problem. My friends, in order to find the average, let's always write it down. In order to find the average, we first compute the total, right? The total sum. Total sum means the same thing. And divide it by some number of numbers we added up above, right? In the numerator. Now, we know that average of 145 people visited in the first 3 days. Can we find the total number of people? Yes, of course. Step 1. Step 1, use inverse operation, multiplication. 3 days times 145 people on average, it gives us 3 days times 145 times 3. I have to compute this myself. 15, 13, 8. We have 1,035 people visited in the first 3 days. We know that 205 people visited on the 4th day. So 1,035 plus 205 more, okay? It gives us 1,240 people who visited on 4 days. Can we find the average now? Of course we can. Step 3. In order to find the average, we have the total sum of people, of visitors on 4 days, 1,204 people, and there were 4 days of exhibits. And the average number of people on 4 days is 301 person per day. 301 person per day. Ooh, there we go. There we go. Such an interesting problem. Let's take a look at number 18. The average number of chickens on 4 farms. I always like to separate my problems at least a little bit. The average number of chickens on 4 farms is 8,900. That's the average on 4 farms. 2 of these farms have these many chickens and that many chickens. So 4 farms. How many chickens do the other farms have all together? So again, this is a multi-step average problem and I consider it pretty challenging. First step. Typically, how do we find the average? We take the total sum. I feel like when you're starting to study average, it really helps to write down how we compute it. In order to find the average, it's the total sum divided by the numbers. Now, do we know the total number of chickens on all 4 farms? No, we don't. No, we don't know. We don't know the total number of chickens on 4 farms, but we do know that the average, I can substitute right here. We do know that the average is 8,900 and we have 4 farms. Can we find the total number of chickens on all 4 farms using opposite operation, which is multiplication? Of course we can. Step 1, 900 times 4. And I don't even need to stack it up. I can just say 8,000 times 4 is 30. 8,000 times 4 is 36,000, 36,000, right? It's right this. And 900 times 4, oh my goodness, look at me. It's not 36. Of course, it's 32,000. Oh, Miss Natasha. 32,000. And 900 times 4 is 3,600. And altogether, total number of chickens, the sum of all the chickens on 4 farms is 35,600 chickens total. Now that we know the total quantity, look at this. Farm 1, Farm 2, Farm 3, Farm 4. Farm 1, we don't know. Farm 2, we don't know. But the 2 farms we know is 6,180 and 3,960. And we now know the total, which is 35,600 chickens. Can we find how many chickens do the other farms altogether? Of course, we can use subtraction, step 2. 35,600 chickens on all farms, 4 farms, minus the sum of farm 3 and 4, which is 6,180 plus 3,960. And I hope you can do it in multiple steps. This should be 10,140. And when we subtract, the other 2 farms must have 25,460 chickens. And that's the answer to the final problem. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. These are challenging average problems, word problems.